Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Y'all ready for this?
Oh man, not another day like last Tuesday.
The big news.
News? What news?
Sorry.
What? What?
All right, but this is beyond news. This is like Pearl Harbor or the Kennedy assassination. It's like not even news, it's total shock.
Oh.
Tuesday holiday seem to be unfair.
Hello, and welcome everyone to today's
Tuesday Newsday.
On May 7th, 2019. Our learning goal for today should look familiar. It is to determine two or more central ideas of a text and analyze how their development over that text it shows how that those couple central ideas can build on one another. The skill should look familiar today. 4 means that you can identify the central idea or ideas, the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and how the ideas build on one another. 3 means that you can identify the central ideas and the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point. 2 means that you can identify the central idea or ideas, but you're not really explaining the evidence or how you got there. And 1 means that you're unsure of how to find the central idea. In order to receive 1.5 units for today's class, you must highlight or underline the main idea, circle the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and put a box around any other central ideas in the text. We'll be working with 4 skills, the same 4 skills that we work with weekly. Remember that when we identify the topic, we know that that is different from the main idea. The main idea is more detailed, the main idea is more specific, but the topic is what might interest an audience. We want to be able to summarize the story first because we want to intro the main idea, and then lastly, because we would like to recap the main idea. Repetition. If an author is going to repeat an idea more than once, it probably is important and probably means that it ties back to the idea that they're trying to get across. Today's story, brought to us by Public Radio International, is titled Tough Commute. Try crossing the U.S.-Mexico border to go to school. And the article begins like this. There's a 5-mile-long line of trucks amassed at the border between Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, and El Paso, Texas, after the Trump administration moved federal agents away from the ports of entry to other immigration duties. The delays can cause gridlocks lasting up to 12 hours and convince some business owners to consider moving goods via air freight to avoid the lines. You should know that amassed and gridlocks are both vocab words. But the truckers aren't the only ones waiting in lines at the border. High school senior Melissa Sanchez starts her day at 5:30 a.m. even though class won't start for hours. Sanchez lives in Ciudad, Mexico, and goes to school across the border in El Paso. I leave my house at like 6:20, 6:30, Sanchez says. Then we get into the line to cross the border and we wait for like an hour or an hour and a half, usually. But nowadays, since things get a little bit crazy, we're waiting 2 to 3 hours, so I need to wake up more early. Many migrants are also lined up, waiting on the same walkway Sanchez takes to school. I think it's really sad to see them just sitting and waiting for some kind of miracle to happen to their lives, she says, because I have the privilege to go to school, to have a family. I see those poor kids. They didn't have a place to stay, and that's the only thing that runs through my mind. Sanchez walks with her mother over the pedestrian crossing and sees migrants waiting, but she hasn't spoken to them. There's little interaction. Sanchez's school, the Lydia Patterson Institute, is a private Methodist school that is also bilingual. Bilingual is a vocab word, with some 70% of its 350 students coming from Mexico every day. Socorro de Anda is the president of the school and has worked there for more than 30 years. The school itself is over 100 years old, having first opened in 1913. Generations of students have gone through here, says de Anda. We're here to create leaders for both sides of the border. Sanchez says she wanted to study in the U.S. ever since she was a kid. My dream since I was little, I wanted to come to college here, she said, and I wanted to get to know more people, more cities, more countries. She got a full scholarship to attend the school, like many of the other students there. But now, the school has been preparing for possible border closures, even if they're temporary, and de Anda met with the students this week to discuss the possibility. I told them not to worry about it, she says. I want you to worry about your schoolwork. They've also got a backup plan just in case. We are ready to transmit our classes via computers if need be, and they can receive their classes there with their own computers or their tablets or even their cell phones. We've got a plan, she says. Transmit is a vocab word. de Anda says she doesn't think she'll need a backup plan, but she's anxious, adding that the possible border closure keeps her up at night. I cannot see the border closing for too long a period of time, she says. Frankly, I cannot. It would be disastrous to the state of Texas, and it would be disastrous to the whole country. And despite the longer lines, de Anda says the students are making it to school on time, even though it means many of them are doing it by getting up even earlier, just like Sanchez. It's really hard to take a step up and say, I need to do this, she says. Sanchez used to sleep 7 hours a night, but now with the longer lines, it's more like 5. So here we are at the worksheet, identifying the topic. I think the topic has to do with crossing the border to go to school. Summarizing the story. In order to be more, I'll put this in quotation marks, cultured, to see more, learn more, and do more. Students cross the border for school despite the difficulty and it's not really so much hassle, but it's a and effort it takes. First and last sentence, I will get that for you now. So here we are. The first sentence says, there's a 5-mile-long line of trucks amassed at the border between Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, and El Paso, Texas, after the Trump administration moved federal agents away from ports of entry to other immigration duties. And the last sentence is, Sanchez used to sleep 7 hours at night, but now with the longer lines, it's more like 5. We're on to repeated ideas. One of them was the opportunity T to learn. Was how hard it someone really is to get across, and the effort it takes. And a third would have been the possible closures. And the main idea, of course, is up to you. I don't like to give you that because based on what we've talked about, what we've discussed here, I think that you are capable of coming up with what that main idea is. And once again, once you've done this, answered this, possibly via Edpuzzle, and completed the vocab, also possibly via Edpuzzle, you have earned 1.5 units for today. Do not forget that there is another article available to you via hard copy in the front of the room from me. I can give you that, and you can earn another 1.5 units for today. And as always, at the end of Tuesday News Day, ciao for now.